The notification sound on my laptop cut through the Tuesday morning coffee shop noise. I glanced at the screen, and there it was, the line item I'd been waiting to see for exactly 60 months. Merchant Services, Inc. Payment, $1,400. Below it, in smaller text that somehow felt monumental, payment 60 of 60, final. I closed the laptop slowly, like I was handling something that might shatter if I moved too fast. My hands didn't shake. They probably should have, but after 5 years of this, I'd learned to keep everything locked down tight. The barista called out someone's complicated order: extra foam, oat milk, 2 pumps of vanilla, and the sound felt distant, like I was underwater. I pulled out my phone and typed an email to Rebecca Torres. "It's done. We can proceed." 3 words. 5 years in the making. The coffee tasted different that morning. Better, somehow. Or maybe I was just finally able to taste it properly after spending half a decade drinking the cheapest stuff I could find at the grocery store. My phone buzzed. Rebecca's response came back in under 30 seconds. "Perfect. See you Friday at 2 p.m. Bring the folder." I allowed myself a smile. A small one. The kind that doesn't reach your eyes but means something anyway. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have recognized the person sitting in this Starbucks. That version of me trusted people, believed in family, thought helping out meant something mutual. 5 years ago, I signed papers that changed everything. The barbecue at Uncle Rick's house happened on a Saturday in June. I remember the date because it was my graduation weekend. I'd walked across the stage that Friday, business degree finally in hand after 4 years of late nights and student loans that made my stomach hurt when I looked at the balance. Uncle Rick had the big backyard, the one with the deck he'd built himself and the grill that probably cost more than my first car. He was flipping burgers when I arrived, beer in one hand, spatula in the other, telling some story about a fishing trip that kept getting more elaborate with each retelling. "Tyler, the graduate." He set down the spatula and pulled me into one of those aggressive guy hugs that's more about the backslapping than actual affection. "Look at you, college boy, smart as hell, right?" "Thanks, Uncle Rick." I accepted a burger that was slightly too charred on one side. Dad was there, my actual father, Uncle Rick's younger brother, sitting in one of the lawn chairs with my mom, looking tired. He'd worked a double shift at the warehouse the day before. 53 years old and still hauling boxes because that's what you did to pay the bills. He raised his beer bottle in my direction and smiled. "Proud of you, son." Those words meant more than the diploma. Uncle Rick wasn't done with me yet. "Hey, Tyler, you're good with numbers and business stuff, right? Got a degree and everything?" I nodded, trying to figure out where this was going. "Come here a sec." He guided me away from the grill toward the deck table where he'd set up shop with papers and his laptop. "I'm starting this consulting business. Investment advising, wealth management, that kind of thing. Got some clients already, got the structure figured out. But here's the thing." He lowered his voice like we were conspirators. "I need a co-signer for the business loan. Just a formality. My credit's rebuilding after the divorce. You know how that goes. And the bank wants someone with clean credit to co-sign. Won't affect you at all. Just need a signature." I looked at the papers. There were a lot of them. "How much are we talking about?" "75,000 for the main business loan. Another 12 for equipment and setup costs. But like I said, pure formality. I've got the income, got the business plan, got clients ready to go. Bank just needs the cosign to approve it." Dad walked over with 2 fresh beers. "Rick, that's a lot to ask the kid. He just graduated." "It's not asking anything," Uncle Rick laughed, but there was an edge to it. "It's paperwork. That's it. Tyler gets to help his uncle start a business. I get the capital I need. Everybody wins. Family helps family, right?" I looked at my father. He had that expression he got when he wanted to say something but wouldn't. The one that meant, "Your choice, but I'm not sure about this." I was 23 years old. I'd been working a part-time job at an accounting firm since February, just hired full-time starting in July at $45,000 a year. I had $1,200 in my checking account and student loans that made me wake up anxious at 3 a.m. sometimes. But Uncle Rick was family. He'd been at every birthday party, every Christmas, every graduation. He'd taught me to ride a bike when I was 7. When Dad's hours got cut during the recession, Uncle Rick had helped with groceries. Where do I sign? Uncle Rick's grin could have lit up the entire backyard. That's my nephew. Smart and helpful. You're going places, Tyler. I signed 12 different places. Initials here, full signature there, date on this line. Uncle Rick walked me through each one, explaining terms I didn't fully understand but nodded along to anyway. Investment capital, equipment leases, business development costs. The burger sat heavy in my stomach while I signed. This won't come back on you, Uncle Rick said as I signed the last page. Guaranteed. The business is solid. I've got it figured out. He hugged me again. Harder this time. You're saving my dream, kid. 8 months later, my phone rang at 9:37 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was at my desk at Morrison & Associates, reviewing a client's quarterly statements, when the call came through from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Patterson? This is Jennifer Caldwell from First National Bank. My stomach did that thing where it drops about 6 inches. We're calling regarding your business loan with Merchant Services, Inc. The account is 90 days past due. We've attempted to contact the primary account holder, but those attempts have been unsuccessful. I set down my pen very carefully. I'm sorry, what loan? You're listed as the co-signer on a business loan issued in June of last year. Principal amount of $75,000 plus an equipment lease of $12,000. The account is currently delinquent. The office suddenly felt too small, too warm, like someone had turned up the heat to maximum and forgotten about it. There must be a mistake. That's supposed to be handled by Mr. Patterson. As the co-signer, you're equally responsible for the debt. The primary account holder filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy 3 weeks ago. The debt obligation has transferred to you. I stood up from my desk and walked to the bathroom. Locked myself in a stall. Sat down on the closed toilet lid and tried to remember how to breathe. $87,000. That's what Jennifer said when I called her back 10 minutes later, after I'd splashed cold water on my face and practiced looking normal in the mirror. 87,000? My voice sounded distant, like someone else was speaking. Principal plus accumulated interest and fees. We can discuss payment arrangements if you'd like to avoid further collection action. I called Uncle Rick. He answered on the 4th ring. Rick, I skipped the uncle part. The bank just called me about your business loan. Oh yeah, his voice was casual. Too casual, like we were discussing weekend plans. Business didn't work out, filed bankruptcy, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it? I co-signed. Yeah, but the bankruptcy covers it. They'll write it off. Happens all the time in business. My hands were shaking. That's not how co-signing works. Look, Tyler, I gotta go. Carla's waiting for me. We can talk about this later if you want, but trust me, it's handled. He hung up. I stood in that bathroom stall for another 20 minutes before I could make myself go back to my desk. The payment plan took 2 weeks to arrange. Jennifer Caldwell walked me through it in a voice that was simultaneously sympathetic and completely indifferent to my situation. $1,400 a month for 60 months. That would cover the principal, the interest, and keep me from complete financial ruin. $1,400. My rent was $850 for a studio apartment in a building where the heat worked inconsistently and the neighbors fought at 2 a.m. Car payment was $312 for a 2009 Honda Civic that needed new tires. Student loans were $280. Phone, internet, utilities, groceries. Everything else had to come from what remained of my $45,000 salary after taxes. I did the math sitting at my kitchen table at midnight. Calculator app open on my phone. Spreadsheet on my laptop. The numbers didn't change no matter how many times I ran them. There would be no savings, no emergency fund, no dating budget, no vacations, no margin for error. For the next 5 years, I would live in a financial straitjacket because Uncle Rick's dream turned into my nightmare. I called Dad the next morning. He screwed me. My voice cracked on the last word. He knew this would happen. Dad was quiet for a long moment. What do you need? I don't know. I don't know. You want me to talk to him? Would it matter? Another long pause. Probably not. That's when I knew. When I understood that Uncle Rick wasn't going to fix this. Wasn't going to apologize. Wasn't going to help. The bankruptcy had wiped his slate clean, and mine had just been loaded up with 87,000 reasons to regret trusting family. The first payment cleared on September 15th. I watched the money leave my checking account and felt something inside me change. Not break, exactly. Just harden. Crystallize into something colder and more calculating than I'd been before. I opened a new document on my laptop and titled it Uncle Rick Records. Then I started keeping track of everything. 5 years is a long time to hate someone quietly. That's what I learned. That rage doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to announce itself. It can just sit there in your chest like a stone, getting heavier with every payment that clears your bank account. Year 1. I lived on pasta and eggs, learned to make 15 different ramen variations, stopped going out with coworkers after work because I couldn't afford the bar tab. My college friends started to drift away because I could never make it to concerts, sporting events, weekend trips. Next time, I'd say. We both knew there wouldn't be a next time. Uncle Rick showed up to Thanksgiving with a new watch. Not the cheap kind. The kind that catches light and announces its expense without anyone having to ask. He talked about his upcoming vacation to Scottsdale, golf courses and resort pools. He'd bounced back from the bankruptcy faster than I'd bounced back from co-signing. Year 2. I got a promotion at Morrison & Associates. Junior analyst to mid-level. $51,000 a year. I calculated what that meant in extra monthly budget. About $360 after taxes. $250 of that went straight to building a minimal emergency fund that never seemed to grow beyond $800. Uncle Rick bought a Silverado, midnight blue, fully loaded. He drove it to Dad's 60th birthday party and spent 45 minutes in the driveway showing it off to anyone who'd listen. The truck cost more than I'd earn in a year. "You gotta upgrade that Civic at some point, Tyler," he'd laughed, gesturing at my car with rust spots on the driver's side door. "Ain't no women gonna be impressed by that thing." I smiled. Said nothing. Went home and opened my spreadsheet. Added the date and his comment to the mockery log I'd started keeping. Year 3. I met someone. Sarah. She worked at the coffee shop near my office. We went on 3 dates before she asked why I never suggested dinner anywhere nicer than Chipotle. "Just being careful with money," I'd said. 4th date, she asked why I still had a mattress on the floor instead of a bed frame. "Priorities," I'd said. There was no 5th date. She stopped making eye contact when I came in for coffee, started having the other barista handle my order. I couldn't blame her. What 26-year-old woman wants to date someone living like a broke college student? Uncle Rick got married to Carla that summer. Second wedding for both of them. They rented a barn venue 2 hours north and had a reception that must have cost $15,000. Open bar. Live band. Ice sculpture. I stood in the corner with my sister Maya and nursed a single beer that I'd promised myself was my limit. "He has no shame," Maya whispered. "Spending like this while you're—" "Don't," I cut her off. "Not here." But she knew. I'd told her in year 1, sworn her to secrecy because I didn't want the whole family knowing. Didn't want the pity. Didn't want the questions about why I'd been so stupid. Year 4. The pandemic hit. Morrison & Associates shifted to remote work. I saved money on gas, on work clothes, on lunches out. The extra money went straight to payments, trying to get ahead, trying to see the finish line. Uncle Rick posted photos from his home office setup. Triple monitors. Ergonomic chair that probably cost $800. Standing desk. He'd gotten some job in sales, medical devices or insurance or something that paid well for someone whose last business venture had destroyed his nephew's 20s. At Christmas Zoom call, he made a joke about me probably loving work from home because I could stay in pajamas and save money on everything. The family laughed. A chorus of tiny Zoom boxes all finding it funny. I laughed too. Muted my microphone and imagined what I'd say if I ever stopped being quiet. Year 5. I got promoted again. Financial analyst, $67,000. I was 33 years old making decent money and living like I made minimum wage. The studio apartment. The Civic with 208,000 miles. The clothes I'd been wearing since college. But in January of year 5, I made my 60th payment. The end was finally visible. I called Rebecca Torres on a Tuesday morning. Found her through a lawyer referral service, told her I needed someone who specialized in contract law and fraud. The consultation was free. I brought my folder, 5 years of payment records, screenshots of Uncle Rick's social media showing his lifestyle, the original co-signing documents, everything. Rebecca reviewed it all in silence. 42 years old, sharp-eyed, the kind of lawyer who probably terrified opposing counsel. She looked up after 20 minutes. This is textbook fraudulent inducement. He misrepresented the risk, you suffered damages, and he's been unjustly enriched while you paid his debt. Can we do something about it? She leaned back in her chair. We can reverse this. Transfer the debt back to him. It'll take about 6 months if you can stay quiet. Can you do that? I thought about the 60 payments, the 5 years, the ramen and the rust bucket car and the dates that never happened and the life I didn't get to live. I can do quiet, Rebecca smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who enjoyed her job. Then let's start. The plan came together over 6 months. Rebecca filed motions, gathered evidence, built the case quietly while I continued making payments and showing up to family gatherings like nothing had changed. Uncle Rick kept talking, kept posting, kept living his life. In March, he showed up to Dad's house with photos of a boat he was considering buying. Fishing boat. $19,000. He was going to finance it, he said, over 4 years. Gotta enjoy life, you know? He'd said it directly to me. Can't take it with you. I nodded. That's true. In April, he posted photos from a resort in Florida. Beach, cocktails, sunset views. He'd tagged it, living my best life. In May, Maya texted me. When are you going to tell everyone? Soon, I typed back. In June, Rebecca called. Everything's filed, approved, ready to proceed. Just give me the date and location. I looked at my calendar. Family game night was scheduled for July 3rd at Aunt Carol's house. Monthly tradition. Monopoly or cards or whatever. Uncle Rick never missed it. July 3rd, I told Rebecca. I'll text you the address. Perfect, I'll be there. I hung up and made my final payment. Logged into the bank portal. Watched the money transfer. $1,612. I'd paid a little extra this month to close it completely. The weight that had sat on my chest for 5 years didn't vanish. But it shifted. Redistributed. Made room for something else to grow. That night, I ordered Thai food. The expensive kind. Extra spring rolls. Pad Thai with shrimp instead of just vegetables. Mango sticky rice for dessert. It tasted like victory. Or maybe just the first bite of a meal I'd been waiting 5 years to eat. 3 days until game night. 3 days until Uncle Rick learned what it felt like to receive a debt he thought was gone. I couldn't wait. Aunt Carol's dining room smelled like vanilla candles and slightly burnt coffee. She always made coffee too strong and let the pot sit too long, but nobody complained because she hosted every month without fail. The Monopoly board sat in the center of the table, already set up. Someone had added extra house rules over the years. Free parking collected all fees. You had to circle the board once before buying property, stuff like that. Made the games last longer. Made the competition more vicious. I arrived at 7:15. Uncle Rick was already there, holding a Coors Light and talking to Dad about something work-related. He wore a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Tyler, Aunt Carol pulled me into a hug. Haven't seen you in forever. Been busy with work. I set my phone on the table, screen down, recording app already running. Uncle Rick turned around, beer in hand, and his face lit up with that grin I'd learned to hate. Well, Tyler actually showed up. Figured you couldn't afford the gas to get here. The room did that thing where everyone kind of laughs, but not really because they're not sure if it's a joke or an insult. Cousin Jake looked uncomfortable. Sister Maya shot me a glance that said, "Do you want me to say something?" I smiled. Made it work. That's the spirit. Uncle Rick clapped me on the shoulder. Good to see you're still scraping by. I took my usual seat at the table. Dad sat across from me. Maya next to me. Uncle Rick at the head. Aunt Carol, Jake, and Jake's girlfriend Emma filled out the rest. The game started at 7:30. Uncle Rick picked the car token like always. I took the dog. We rolled dice and moved pieces and made small talk about weather and work and nothing that mattered. By 8:15, Uncle Rick owned 3 properties and was making noise about building hotels. I'd circled the board twice and hadn't bought anything yet. You gonna buy anything, Tyler? Uncle Rick collected $200 for passing go. Or just watch everyone else play? I landed on Baltic Avenue and passed on buying it. Saving my money. For what? Uncle Rick laughed. Your millionth package of ramen? Jake shifted uncomfortably. Dad, come on. What? I'm just joking. Uncle Rick bought Boardwalk when he landed on it 2 turns later. See, Tyler? That's how you play. Gotta spend money to make money. I picked up my cards and set them down very deliberately. Interesting philosophy. Maybe if you took risks like me, you wouldn't be broke all the time. He leaned back in his chair, beer in hand, the picture of satisfied confidence. Gotta think big, nephew. The room went quiet. Everyone was looking at their cards or their phones or anywhere except at me and Uncle Rick. I reached down to my bag next to my chair and pulled out a folder. Manila. Slightly worn. Stuffed with papers I'd been collecting for 5 years. Speaking of risks, Uncle Rick. I set the folder on the table. Remember your investment business? His smile froze. Just for a second. A micro-expression that probably nobody else caught. That was years ago, kid. 5 years, I opened the folder. The business loan you needed a cosigner for? Uncle Rick set down his beer. Tyler, $87,000. That's what I've been paying while you bought Silverados and took vacations. I pulled out the first document. Bank statement. Highlighted line. Payment to Merchant Services, Inc. $400. Then another. And another. 60 months of statements. 60 payments of $1,400 each. Wait. Jake leaned forward. Dad, what is he talking about? Uncle Rick's face was doing something complicated. Red creeping up from his collar, jaw tight. That debt was discharged in bankruptcy. I handled it. You handled your bankruptcy. I pulled out more papers. I was the cosigner. The debt transferred to me when you filed Chapter 7. I've been paying it for 5 years. Maya covered her mouth with her hand. Dad went very still. $84,000. I spread the statements across the Monopoly board, covering Park Place and Boardwalk and all those expensive properties Uncle Rick was so proud of owning. That's what I've paid, plus interest. While you... I pulled out my phone and opened Facebook. Scrolled through Uncle Rick's posts from the last 5 years. The Silverado. The Florida vacation. The wedding. The boat he'd been considering. The home office setup. The watch. The life he'd been living while I ate ramen and drove a car with rust spots. While you posted about living your best life. The silence in Aunt Carol's dining room was complete. Even the vanilla candles seemed to stop flickering. Uncle Rick tried to recover. I didn't know you were paying. I thought the bank wrote it off. The bank doesn't write off $87,000. My voice was steady. Calm. I'd practiced this. Co-signers are liable. You knew that when you asked me to sign? I was 23. I looked directly at him. Fresh out of college. You said it was a formality. You said it wouldn't affect me. You said the business was solid. Uncle Rick opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Business failed. These things happen. And then you moved on, bought a truck, got married, went on vacation, while I paid your debt. I pulled out the collection notices from year 1, the letters I'd received, the calls I'd gotten. You never once asked if I was okay. You just made jokes about me being broke. Jake stood up from the table. Dad, is this real? Uncle Rick's face was fully red now. Jake, sit down. This is between me and Tyler. Like hell it is. Jake didn't sit. You let him pay $84,000? I didn't let him do anything. That's how co-signing works. That's how fraud works. The voice came from the hallway. Everyone turned. Rebecca Torres walked into the dining room wearing a blazer and carrying a leather portfolio. She looked exactly like what she was, an attorney who was very good at her job and enjoyed moments like this. Who the hell are you? Uncle Rick stood up. Rebecca Torres. I represent Tyler. She walked to the table and set down the portfolio. And I have something for you. She pulled out an envelope. Official. Heavy paper. The kind that means something legal and serious. This is a notice of legal action, fraudulent inducement, breach of contract, unjust enrichment. Rebecca's voice was clinical, professional. Your nephew paid your business debt for 5 years. We're transferring that debt back to you. Uncle Rick took the envelope with shaking hands, opened it, started reading. His face went from red to pale in about 15 seconds. $82,000 in principal, plus $7,400 in legal fees. Total amount due, $89,400. Uncle Rick looked up from the papers. This is insane. You can't. It's already done. Rebecca pulled out another document. Filed with the court on Tuesday, approved on Friday. You have 30 days to respond or arrangements will be made for collection. Collection? Uncle Rick's voice cracked. I can't pay this. You found a way to buy a truck. I stood up from the table. You found a way to vacation in Florida. You found a way to get married and buy a boat and live however you wanted. You'll find a way to pay this. Jake backed away from his father like he didn't recognize him. Maya had tears in her eyes. Dad just sat there, staring at Uncle Rick with an expression I'd never seen before. Something between disappointment and disgust. Uncle Rick tried one more angle. Tyler, we're family. We can work this out. Family don't mock people they owe money to. I started gathering the bank statements, putting them back in the folder. Family don't let their nephew pay their debts while they buy Silverados. I didn't know. You didn't ask. I zipped the folder closed. Not once in 5 years did you ask how I was doing. You just assumed I was broke because I'm stupid or lazy or unsuccessful. Never occurred to you that maybe I was broke because I was paying your debt. Rebecca handed Uncle Rick a second envelope. Official service of notice. You've been served, Mr. Patterson. Uncle Rick stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Then he turned and walked toward the door. Fast. Not quite running, but close. Rick, Aunt Carol called after him. Rick, wait! The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames on the wall. A few seconds later, we heard his Silverado start up and peel out of the driveway. The dining room stayed silent. Finally, Jake spoke up. How much did you say he owes? $89,400. Rebecca was already packing up her portfolio. Plus, interest will accrue if he doesn't begin payments within 30 days. Jesus Christ, Jake sat back down heavily. He's been living like... And you've been... Yeah. I didn't need to say more. Maya hugged me, hard. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because I didn't want pity. I wanted him to learn on his own. Dad stood up and put his hand on my shoulder. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. The expression on his face said everything. Aunt Carol made fresh coffee. The burnt kind. We sat around the table, Monopoly pieces still scattered across the board, and I answered questions for the next hour. How long? Why didn't you say something? Is this really legal? Can he actually pay this? I showed them everything. The 60 payments, the collection notices, the screenshots of Uncle Rick's posts, the documentation of every mocking comment I could remember. By 10:30, most people had left. Just me and Maya remained, helping Aunt Carol clean up. My phone rang at 11:47. Uncle Rick's name on the screen. I watched it ring. 4 buzzes. Then voicemail. It rang again at 11:51. Again at midnight. At 12:07. 12:14. 12:28. 12:43. 7 calls in an hour. I didn't answer any of them. For 5 years, when I'd called about his debt, about the business that failed, about whether he could help, for 5 years, Uncle Rick never answered. Funny how that works. I drove home to my studio apartment in my Rust Bucket Civic and slept better than I had in 60 months. Monday morning started with a call from Rebecca. He tried to reach his lawyer over the weekend, called 14 times according to the office voicemail. His attorney called me back this morning, wants to know if we're serious. I was making coffee in my studio apartment kitchen, the two-burner stove kind that barely qualified as a kitchen. What did you tell him? That we're extremely serious and he has 29 days left to respond. I could hear the smile in her voice. His lawyer said your uncle is claiming he didn't know you were paying the debt. His lawyer's job is to say that. I poured the coffee. Still the cheap stuff, but I'd bought the fancy creamer this time. Small victories. Doesn't make it true. I sent over your documentation, the Facebook posts showing his lifestyle, the timeline, everything. His lawyer went quiet after that. Tuesday, Uncle Rick's attorney called Rebecca back with questions about settlement. Could they work out a payment plan? Could they reduce the amount? Could they get the legal fees waived? Rebecca's answer to all three: no. Wednesday, Uncle Rick showed up at my office. I was in a meeting when reception called. There's a Richard Patterson here to see you. Says he's family. My stomach did that dropping thing it used to do when the bank would call. Tell him I'm not available. He's being insistent. Tell security to escort him out if he won't leave. 5 minutes later, my boss knocked on the conference room door. Tyler, there's a situation in the lobby. I excused myself from the meeting and went downstairs. Uncle Rick was there, arguing with the security guard, face red and voice loud enough that people were staring. That's my nephew. I just need 5 minutes. Sir, you need to leave the building. The security guard was a big guy named Marcus, who I'd talked to every morning for 3 years. He looked apologetic but firm. Uncle Rick spotted me. Tyler, please, we need to talk about this. I walked over slowly, kept my voice level. We don't have anything to talk about. Your lawyer has Rebecca's contact information. Handle it through them. This is insane. You're destroying your own family. I'm collecting a debt, that's all. I turned to Marcus. He needs to leave. If he comes back, call the police. Tyler, Uncle Rick's voice cracked on my name. I walked back to the elevator, didn't look back. Marcus called me that afternoon. Filed a harassment complaint just in case. Got him on camera refusing to leave. You okay? Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Family's tough sometimes. He said it like he knew. Thursday, Rebecca called with an update. He tried to take out a personal loan to pay the settlement. Got denied. His credit's worse than I thought. How bad? Let's just say the Silverado purchase was probably financed at 18% interest. Friday evening, something unexpected happened. I got a notification that Uncle Rick had started a GoFundMe. The title, Falsely Accused, Help My Family. The description made my blood pressure spike. He'd written 3 paragraphs about being targeted by a vengeful nephew who was trying to destroy him over a misunderstanding about a business loan. He claimed he'd never known I was paying anything, that I was making up stories, that this was about family drama, not debt. He'd set the goal at $45,000. I screenshot the entire page and sent it to Maya. She responded in under a minute. On it. 30 minutes later, the GoFundMe was taken down for violating terms of service. Maya had reported it and included links to his Facebook posts showing vacations and expensive purchases during the time he claimed to be struggling. Uncle Rick called me that night. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. You're making this impossible, Tyler. I'm trying to make this right, and you won't even talk to me. What do you want from me? I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. Week 2 brought financial consequences. Rebecca filed the judgment with credit reporting agencies. Uncle Rick's credit score dropped from 720 to 580 in 3 days. He found out when he tried to refinance his mortgage and got denied. Then he tried to get a new credit card to consolidate some debt. Denied. Then he tried to get approved for that boat loan he'd been talking about. Very denied. The Silverado payment was $680 a month. His mortgage was $1,500. The credit cards he'd been using to supplement his lifestyle were maxed out and now had interest rates that made them basically unpayable. Aunt Carol called me Tuesday afternoon. Tyler, Rick is panicking. He tried to sell the truck. Okay? He owes more than it's worth. Something about being underwater on the loan. That happens when you finance at 18%. She was quiet for a moment. He's been living beyond his means for years, hasn't he? Yeah. I didn't elaborate. I'm sorry I didn't know. About the debt. About what he did to you. You couldn't have known. He didn't want anyone to know. Still. Family should? She trailed off. Rick always was good at looking successful. Wednesday, the family group chat exploded. Uncle Rick posted, "Can't believe my own nephew is tearing this family apart over money. Thought we meant more to each other than this." Maya responded with a screenshot. Uncle Rick's Facebook post from 2 years ago. Him standing next to a boat at a dock. Caption, "Living my best life. Sometimes you gotta treat yourself." Then another screenshot. His check-in at a resort in Florida. Week in paradise. Blessed nature vacation mode. Then another. His wedding photos. Professional photographer. Expensive venue. Then the kicker. Maya posted a photo of a spreadsheet. 5 years of my bank statements, highlighted in yellow. Every $1,400 payment. Total at the bottom, $84,000. Jake commented first. "Dad, what the actual fuck?" Uncle Rick's son, his own kid. Seeing it laid out like that. Emma, Jake's girlfriend, chimed in, "This is disgusting. Tyler paid your debt while you posted about being blessed?" Cousin Sarah, who I barely knew, commented, "Uncle Rick, this is really bad." Dad's message was simple. "Rick, call me." Uncle Rick tried to defend himself. Business failed. These things happen. Tyler knew what he was signing. Maya. He was 23. You were 48. You told him it was a formality. Uncle Rick. I thought the bank would write it off. Jake. Banks don't write off $87,000. Stop lying. The chat went silent after that. Uncle Rick left the group at 3:47 p.m. Thursday, Jake called me. "I need to tell you something." His voice was tight. "Dad borrowed money from me too." I sat down. "How much?" $3,200, 2 years ago. Said he'd pay it back when his commission check came through. Did he? No. Kept saying next month. Eventually, I just stopped asking because it was causing fights with him and Mom. "You should tell Rebecca." "Already did. She said it adds to the case." Friday afternoon, Aunt Carol called again. "Tyler, this is embarrassing to admit, but I need to tell you something." I waited. "After my mom passed, your grandma Rose, she left some money. $5,000 split between Rick and your dad. Rick asked if he could borrow my half, said he needed it for medical bills." My hand tightened on the phone. "When was this?" 3 years ago. "Did he pay you back?" "No, and I found his credit card statement last year when I was helping him organize paperwork. He used it in Cancun. There were no medical bills. You should tell Rebecca." I already did, this morning. By Friday evening, Rebecca had compiled a new case file. Uncle Rick's pattern of borrowing and not paying extended beyond just me. Jake, $3,200. Aunt Carol, $5,000. Me, $84,000 plus. The original debt, $80,400. Total documented debts, $98,600. We're filing an aggregate claim, Rebecca said. Shows pattern of behavior. Makes the fraudulent inducement charge stronger. Week 3 through 5 became a masterclass in watching someone's life collapse in slow motion. Uncle Rick listed the Silverado for sale. Got lowball offers because everyone could see he was desperate. Finally sold it to a dealer for $7,000 less than he owed. Had to take out a personal loan at 23% interest just to cover the difference. He started driving a 2008 Toyota Camry. Silver. Dent in the passenger door. The kind of car someone drives when they have no other options. His wife Carla had been quiet through all of this. Then, on a Wednesday morning in week 4, Maya sent me a text. Carla left him. What? Packed 3 suitcases, went to her sister's place. Jake heard from his dad's neighbor. I sat with that information for a while. 5 years ago, Uncle Rick had destroyed my financial stability and then gotten married. Now his marriage was ending because his financial destruction was finally catching up to him. I didn't feel victorious. Just tired. Week 5, Uncle Rick listed his house. 3-bedroom suburban standard. The one with the deck he'd built. The big backyard where he'd convinced me to co-sign those papers. The listing price seemed desperate. He needed out fast. Jake called me Thursday evening. Dad can't make the mortgage payment and the debt payment. Something's got to give. That's not my problem to solve. I know. I'm not asking you to fix it. Jake took a breath. I'm trying to figure out who my dad actually is. Thought I knew him. Yeah. I understood that feeling. Friday of week 5, Uncle Rick called me. I almost didn't answer. Then decided I should hear whatever he had to say. Tyler. His voice sounded destroyed. Older. I'll lose everything. I lost 5 years of my life. This is different. This is my house, my marriage, your truck, your vacations, your lifestyle. I kept my voice level. I lost the girlfriend I couldn't afford to date, the apartment I couldn't rent, the life I couldn't live because I was paying your debt. I didn't know. You didn't care. Every family gathering you made jokes about me being broke, made comments about my car, my apartment, my life. You knew I was struggling. You just thought it was funny. Silence on the line. What do you want from me? He finally asked. I want you to understand what you did. I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to know what it's like to sacrifice everything while someone else lives the life you can't afford. I can't pay $89,000. You'll figure it out. Maybe sell some stuff. Maybe take out loans. Maybe work overtime. Maybe eat ramen for 5 years. You'll manage. I hung up before he could respond. Week 6 brought the breaking point. Uncle Rick's house sold. Fast sale to a cash buyer. He probably lost $20,000 on it compared to market value, but he needed the money now. He moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the south side, the kind of building with security gates that don't work and parking lots that flood when it rains. Carla filed for divorce. Jake heard about it from his dad's lawyer, who accidentally CC'd him on an email. Friday evening, Rebecca called with an offer. He wants to settle. $45,000 cash from the house sale. The rest paid over 5 years at $800 a month. I did the math. $45,000 plus $48,000 over 5 years. $93,000 total. More than the judgment. What about the public apology? He refused, said he'd pay every penny but won't apologize in front of the family. I thought about it. About Uncle Rick standing at family gatherings, pretending none of this happened. About him never having to say the words, I was wrong. Counter offer, full amount, 3 years maximum, plus public apology at the next family gathering. Non-negotiable. Rebecca was quiet. Tyler, he won't agree to that. Then we proceed with garnishment. You know that means dragging this out for years. I've already dragged it out for 5. What's a few more? She sighed. I'll send the counter offer. Monday morning, Uncle Rick's lawyer responded. No deal. They'd take their chances with the courts. Tuesday afternoon, Rebecca filed for wage garnishment. Court approved it by Friday. 25% of Uncle Rick's gross income would go directly to paying the debt. About $1,100 a month based on his salary. It would take 6.5 years to pay off at that rate. I hung up with Rebecca and looked around my studio apartment. The place I'd lived in for 5 years because I couldn't afford to move. The mattress on the floor, the kitchen with 2 burners, the Rust Bucket Civic parked outside. I opened my banking app and looked at my balance. For the first time in 60 months, I had money after rent and bills. Not a lot, but some. I ordered Thai food, the expensive kind. Pad Thai with extra shrimp. 3 spring rolls. Mango sticky rice. While I waited for delivery, I pulled out the folder I'd been keeping for 5 years. Mom's notebook with all the payment records, the bank statements, the screenshots of Uncle Rick's posts. I'd thought about framing it. Some kind of trophy. But sitting there in my studio apartment, eating Thai food that cost more than I used to spend on groceries for a week, I realized something. I didn't need a trophy. The debt transfer wasn't about having something to look at and feel proud of. It was about making sure Uncle Rick understood that actions have consequences. That family isn't a license to use people. That trust, once broken, comes with a price. I put the folder in my desk drawer, closed it. Then I ate my Thai food and watched Netflix on my laptop and lived my life for the first time in 5 years without thinking about Uncle Rick at all. 3 months after the garnishment started, I moved. Not far. Just out of the studio apartment and into a real one-bedroom in a building that had functioning heat and neighbors who didn't fight at 2 a.m. The rent was $200 more a month, but I could afford it now. Actually afford it. Not barely scrape by, afford it. The first night in the new place, I sat on my couch, also new, from IKEA, assembled by myself in 3 hours of Swedish instruction confusion, and realized I owned furniture. Not a mattress on the floor. Actual furniture. Small victories. The garnishment payments came through automatically. $1,100 a month, deducted from Uncle Rick's paycheck before he ever saw it. Rebecca sent me statements every month showing the balance decrease. Month 1, $88,300 remaining. Month 2, $87,200 remaining month. 3, $86,100 remaining. The math was slow but inevitable. I adopted a dog in month 4. Rescue mutt named Bentley. Half lab, half something else, full personality. He destroyed 2 throw pillows in his first week, and I didn't even care. Having something alive in my apartment that was happy to see me felt like progress. Maya visited the new place in month 5, brought wine and pizza, and spent an hour playing with Bentley. "You seem different," she said, sitting on my actual couch in my actual living room. Different how? Lighter, like you've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. Maybe I have. She showed me her phone. The family group chat that Uncle Rick had left. It was quiet now. Occasional messages about birthdays and holidays. Nobody talked about the debt or the lawsuit or any of it. "He's not doing well," Maya said carefully. "Jake says he barely talks to anyone. Goes to work, comes home, that's it." I took a drink of wine. "That's not my responsibility to fix." "I know, I'm not saying it is." She scratched Bentley behind the ears. "Just giving you the update." "Thanks." We watched a movie, ordered dessert, talked about normal things. It felt good. Month 7 brought an unexpected development. My manager at Morrison & Associates announced promotions during the quarterly town hall. When she got to my name, she mentioned something I hadn't expected. Tyler Patterson recently completed a major personal financial milestone while maintaining excellent work performance through a challenging period. She didn't know the details. Just that I'd requested time off 6 months ago for legal matters and had been dealing with something stressful. Afterward, several coworkers congratulated me. Asked questions I deflected politely. One of them, Marcus from accounting, mentioned he'd gone to high school with Jake Patterson. "Your cousin, right?" "Yeah." "Heard about the debt thing with his dad. That was your uncle?" Word had spread. Not through social media or news articles. Just through the quiet network of people who knew people who knew people. Small city. Everyone's connected somehow. By Wednesday, 3 people had asked me about it. By Friday, it felt like the whole office knew. I didn't confirm or deny anything. Just smiled and said, "It's handled," and changed the subject. Uncle Rick, according to Jake, got calls that week. Friends who'd heard through mutual connections, business associates, people he played poker with. The whispers followed him. At the grocery store, the gas station, the bank. Small-town justice works quietly but efficiently. Month 9, Uncle Rick requested a meeting. The email came through Rebecca. Professional. Brief. Wanted to discuss resolution options in person. I agreed to meet at a Panera Bread. Neutral territory. Rebecca came with me as witness and counsel. Uncle Rick looked different. Older. The red face had become pale. The confident swagger was gone. He wore a polo shirt that had seen better days and drove up in the Camry with the dent still in the passenger door. We sat in a corner booth. Rebecca ordered coffee. Uncle Rick ordered nothing. "Tyler." His voice was quiet. "I wanted to talk to you, off the record, just us." Rebecca cleared her throat. "Nothing said here is off the record." Uncle Rick glanced at her, then back to me. "I've been thinking a lot about what I did. About the co-signing. About the debt." I waited. "I didn't understand what I was doing to you. I thought, He struggled with the words. I thought it would all work out somehow. You thought wrong. I know that now. You knew it 5 years ago when the bank called me. You just didn't care. He flinched. I cared. I was dealing with my own problems. The divorce, the bankruptcy, starting over. I wasn't thinking about how it affected you. That's the problem. You never thought about how it affected me. You just assumed I'd handle it quietly and not bother you about it. I was wrong. The words hung in the air between us. What do you want from me, Uncle Rick? He looked at his hands. I want to know what it will take to make this right. The garnishment is killing me. I can barely afford my apartment. Carla's gone. Jake barely talks to me. I've lost everything. I lost 5 years eating ramen while you ate steak. I kept my voice level. I lost the girlfriend I couldn't afford to date, the apartment I couldn't rent, the life you stole. You can't give me that back. Silence. Then what do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to know what it feels like to sacrifice everything because of someone else's choices. I want you to learn that family isn't a license to use people. I understand now. Do you? Because you're sitting here asking me to make it easier for you, to reduce the payment, to let you off the hook. That's not understanding. That's just wanting out. Uncle Rick stood up. I can't win with you. This isn't about winning. It's about paying what you owe. He walked out without another word. The Panera door swung shut behind him. Rebecca looked at me. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. We finished our coffee and talked about normal things. Work, dogs, the weather, life. Month 12 felt like a milestone. I'd been living in the new apartment for 9 months. Bentley had destroyed 6 more throw pillows but learned to sit on command. I'd started dating someone I met at a coffee shop. Her name was Rachel. She worked in marketing. She made me laugh. Uncle Rick had paid $13,200 through garnishment. Still owed $76,200. At the current rate, he had 5.5 more years. Jake called one evening. There's a family thing. Aunt Carol's hosting Christmas. She wanted me to ask if you're coming. Will your dad be there? Probably, but nobody expects you two to talk. I thought about it, about sitting in a room with Uncle Rick, about pretending everything was normal while his paychecks subsidized my life. I'll be there. Christmas Eve at Aunt Carol's house felt strange. Uncle Rick arrived late, stayed quiet, nursed a single beer in the corner. We made eye contact once across the room. He nodded slightly. I nodded back. That was it. No conversation, no confrontation, just acknowledgement that we existed in the same space, and that was all we'd ever be now. I left at 11. Uncle Rick left at 11:30. Maya walked me to my car. Think you'll ever forgive him? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. That's fair. I drove home to my apartment where Bentley waited and Rachel was sleeping on my couch after a movie marathon. Life felt normal for the first time in 6 years. The final payment won't come for another 5.5 years. Uncle Rick still owes $76,200. Every month, $100 disappears from his paycheck. Every month, the balance decreases. We don't speak. We don't text. At family gatherings, we orbit each other like planets that share a solar system but never touch. His wife never came back. His son visits him on holidays, but the relationship is different now. His reputation in the family never fully recovered. I got promoted to senior analyst in March. Started investing in index funds. Adopted a second dog in July. Got serious with Rachel. Started planning a life that feels like mine, not like something I'm renting from someone else's mistakes. Sometimes people ask if I regret the lawsuit. If I feel bad about what happened to Uncle Rick. I think about being 23 and trusting family. About signing papers I didn't understand. About 5 years of $400 monthly payments while he posted vacation photos and made jokes about my rust bucket car. The answer is no. Uncle Rick taught me that some people believe family means you have to absorb their failures. That love means accepting being used. That helping out means sacrificing your future for their comfort. He was wrong about all of it. And now he's paying to learn that lesson. One garnishment check at a time. for the next 5.5 years. And honestly, I'm okay with that.